Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hi everyone, welcome to Introduction to Criticism class. Let me briefly introduce my group. We are from group 2. We want to make a presentation about mimesis as recreation and the classification or categorization of literary genre. Our presentation is divided into 4 parts. It will start with Bayuni Izzat Nabila, and then it will begin with Bunga Kartika Sari, next by Azhar Zaiban, and finally by Andian Yuliawan.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone, my name is Bayuni Izzat Nabila. So I'm here in this session. I want to tell you about the relationship between the poetry and the music. The poetry and music are two forms of literary work that are built with the emphasis on aesthetic values and the message the poet wants to convey. Each of them has a meaning implied in it. Poetry is the art of combining sounds, rhythms, words in a language that reminds impressions and overflows of feelings. Music is closely related to poetry. There are various relationships, including the music used as accompaniment to a poem, poetry sung with rhythm and melody like songs, poetry inspired by songs and music. The playing of songs produced by music is one way to create beauty in a poem, as well as to deepen meaning and feelings. In this case, exemplified is epic poetry and tragedy, as well as comedy, and dithyrambic poetry. Dithyrambic poetry is a lyrical poem in the form of a Greek choir. This poem is an ancient Greek hymn sung in honor of Dionysius, who was the Greek god at the Dionysian festival, and of course accompanied by music. Jadi, musik itu sangat berkaitan dengan puisi. Terdapat beberapa hubungan antara puisi dan musik, yaitu yang pertama, musik digunakan sebagai pengiring suatu puisi. Yang kedua, puisi yang dinyanyikan dengan irama dan melodi seperti lagu. Yang ketiga, puisi-puisi yang terinspirasi dari lagu dan musik Yunani. Permainan bunyi yang dihasilkan oleh musik merupakan salah satu cara untuk menciptakan keindahan pada suatu puisi dan juga untuk memperdalam makna yang ada di dalamnya. Dalam hal ini dicontohkan dithyrambic poetry, yaitu merupakan puisi lirik dengan bentuk paduan suara Yunani. Puisi ini merupakan sebuah pujian Yunani kuno yang dinyanyikan sebagai penghormatan kepada Dionysius yang merupakan dewa Yunani pada festival Dionysian, dan tentunya juga diiringi dengan alunan musik. And then I will try to explain about the concept of imitation as a recreation. Mimesis comes from the Greek, which means imitation. Aristotle considered the artists and writers or authors who performed mimesis did not merely copy reality. It is a creative process to produce newness, or also called recreation. Artists and writers produce a new form of sensory reality that they get because humans are given the intellect to create new ideas. That is Aristotle's positive view of art, and mimesis influenced by ideas. Jadi, mimesis ini berasal dari bahasa Yunani yang artinya imitasi. Aristoteles menganggap seniman dan sastrawan yang melakukan mimesis ini tidak semata-mata menjiplak kenyataan, melainkan sebuah proses kreatif untuk menghasilkan pembaruan atau yang disebut juga sebagai recreation. Seniman dan sastrawan menghasilkan suatu bentuk baru dari kenyataan indrawi yang mereka peroleh. Karena manusia diberikan akal untuk membuat ide-ide baru dan berkreasi. Itulah pandangan positif Aristoteles bahwa seni dan mimesis atau peniruan ini dipengaruhi oleh ide-ide.
Hello, my name is Bunga Kartikasari. I will explain about imitate the nature. Imitate the nature. The poet's imitation is an analogy of reality, which is the process of a form is manifested from matter by nature. The poet takes a form from nature and reshapes it in a different matter or medium. The poet is an imitator and a maker. An imitation, in fact, a kind of making. In imitation, the poet discovers the ultimate form of an action. Why the poet should imitate the nature? Because the general origin of poetry was due part of human nature. Imitation is natural to man from childhood. That we are the most imitative creature in the world and always learns at first by imitate the nature, which is the nature is our reality. According to Aristotle, all arts imitate life, but there are three differences in which they can be distinguished from each other. First, a difference of kinds in their means, just as color and form are used as means by some, who, whether by art or constant practice, imitate and portray many things by their aid, and the voice is used by others so also such as epic poetry and tragedy, as also comedy, dithyrambic poetry, and most flute playing and lyre playing of art. The means with them as a whole are rhythm, language, and harmony used. A combination of harmony and rhythm, a tone is the means in flute playing and lyre playing, and any other arts that may be of the same description. Rhythm alone, without harmony, is the means in the dancer's imitation, for even he by the rhythms of his attitudes may represent men's characters as well as what they do and suffer. There is further an art which imitates by language alone without harmony in prose or in verse, and if in verse, either in some one or in a plurality of matters. The means of poetry are words, and the means of painting are color and form. And for the musician, the means imitate harmony and rhythm. And the second, the differences in the objects. The objects of imitation in poetry are men in action. These men may be either better or worse than the real-life man. In poetic imitation, they are ideal. They represent the real world. A third difference in this art is in the manner in which each kind of object is represented. The manner of imitation also differs from one art to another. The manner of poetic imitation is either narrative or dramatic. Given both the same means and the same kinds of object for imitation, one may either speak at one moment in narrative and at another in an assumed character, as Almer does, or one may remain the same throughout without any such change, or the imitators may represent the whole story dramatically as though they were actually doing the things described. So that's all my explanations. The next topic will continue by Azhar Zaiban about comedy, tragedy, and epic poetry.
Hi, my name is Azazeban. Thank you, Bunga, for appointing me to present the next material. So, without any further ado, let's get to the material. Aristotle argued that tragedy and comedy are forms of human mimesis of nature. However, Aristotle distinguished the two by stating that tragedy represents goodness and honor, while comedy represents humor and humiliation. In chapter 4 of Aristotle's Poetics, he wrote that the essential pleasure that every human being achieves when mimesis is learning and thinking. Aristotle argues that literary mimesis is to represent a complete and continuous action from the beginning, the content, and the conclusion. All three are connected by necessity and possibility. Aristotle explored various important parts of tragedy. He asserted that any tragedy can be divided into six constituent parts. They are plot, character, thought, diction, song, and spectacle. The plot is most important part of tragedy. The plot means the arrangement of incident. Normally, the plot is divided into 5 acts, and each act is further divided into several scenes. The dramatist means skill lies in dividing the plot into acts and scenes in such a way that they may produce the maximum scenic effect in a natural development. Characters are men and women who act. The hero and the heroine are two important figures among the character. Thug means what the character thinks or feels during their career in the development of the plot. The thug is expressed through their speeches and dialogues. Diction is medium of language of expression through which the characters reveal their thoughts and feelings. The diction should be embellished with each kind of artistic element. The song is one of these embellishments. The decoration of the stage is the major part of the spectacle. The spectacle is theatrical effect presented on the stage, but spectacle also includes scenes of physical torture, loud lamentation, dance, colorful garment of the main character, and the beggarly or jocular appearance of the subordinate character of the fool on stage. These are the six constituent part of tragedy. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Okay, my name is Andian Yuliawan Putra. I will continue the presentation. The next material is about catharsis theory. Catharsis was taken from ancient Greek word kathanos, which means purification or clarification. These are similar to soul therapy. Aristotle, one of the greatest philosophers from ancient Greek, was the first who claimed this term catharsis. In his writing themed about physics and metaphysics, drama, logic, politics, etc., Aristotle explained catharsis in his two works, Politics and Poetics. In Politics, Aristotle mentioned that someone who is suffering a painful emotion will experience catharsis with some therapy, and then they will be purified. This explanation was supported by the material in Poetic. In Poetic, Aristotle shows that tragedy, which is an ancient Greek play, impersonating a fear and pity. And after all, tragedy is catharsis. in modern era, in the early 1960s, a writing titled "The Stimulating versus Cathartic Effect of the Vicarious Aggressive Activity," which written in Journal of Abnormal Social Psychology, shows that the catharsis was the emotion therapy in psychology, uh, and psychoanalysis, which is claimed by Sigmund Freud. Sigmund Freud, concepting this theory, catharsis, in psychoanalysis, Freud believes that human was containing two instincts. These two instincts was divided into uh, two kind, which is enos and thanatos. Enos uh, was the Enos was constructive instinct, and then Thanatos is destructive one. Sigmund Freud explained that humans should control their emotion with improve their Enos rather than Thanatos. With constructive instinct, the concept of catharsis, which is a therapy of emotion and soul, will be applied properly.
Well, that's all from us. Thank you all for listening. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. We will very happy to answer your questions.